Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Plant Propagation in Horticulture Plants Part 4. So in this session we are going to study about the propagation by budding method. So budding may be described as a pseudo grafting and sometimes called as bud grafting. So this is also called as pseudo grafting. Pseudo grafting means it is an artificial, it is not a type of grafting, but yes, it is a pseudo grafting, and sometimes it is also called as bud grafting, because in this method we are grafting only the bud part, right? So that is why it is called as bud grafting. It is a form of grafting in which scion consists of a single vegetative bud. So it is on the scion. We know that in the grafting there are two parts, scion and stalk. Okay, so here the scion is in the form of bud, right? A single vegetative bud with bark rather than the piece of stem of a twig, as in grafting. So here suppose this is a bud and this is some of bark region. This is the part of the bark region and this is the bud. So only this part is attached to the stalk part. This single bud inserted into the stem tissue of a rootstock plant, which unites and develops into a composite plant. So when this, suppose this is a rooted part of the plant that is worked as a rootstock. So this is the root part, right? And this is the stalk. There is a branching. And here at the nodal part, we cut an incision and put this a bud to this part. We attach it, right? So this is the propagation by budding. It is important that budding is to be done when the rootstock is actively growing, right? It is actively growing, that is in the spring or the late summer or the monsoon season. Right? So in this time, what happened? The rootstock part is actively growing. It is having all the nutrient that is available in the soil, and also abundant amount of water is also present in the soil, right? So this is very important. Make sure that the rootstock is actively growing. So this budding process can be done in the spring, late summer, or even in the monsoon season. Budding is a common method of propagation of many fruit trees, roses, and many other ornamental trees and shrubs. So not only for the horticulture, but it is also done for the floriculture, especially for the ornamental plants, right? The plant which is having the showy flower. So it is done in the active growing rootstock part. So types of budding, there are the different types of budding. The first is the shield or T budding. Second is the inverted or T budding. Eye budding, patch budding, chip budding, ring budding, flute budding. So many different types of buddings are there. So let us study one by one. Shield or T budding. It is a widely used method for the propagation of fruit trees and the ornamental plants, right? So for the fruit trees and ornamental, this type of the budding is the one of the widely used method. And as the name indicate, the bud prepared has the shape of a shield, and T in shape of a shield, and T is the plant, the shape of the cut given on the rootstock for the preparation. So we put T type of cut on the rootstock part, and then there is this bud that is to be transposed here. Okay, so this is the T budding. This method may be practiced for propagation of citrus, pear, peach, plum, cherry, and also for the rose plant. Inverted T budding. Next one is the inverted tree budding. In this method, a cut reverse to that of T is made on the rootstock. So in the T budding, we make a cut on the rootstock in a T shape, and inverted T, we put a cut in this shape. This is the inverted T budding. It is the most suitable method in areas of high rainfall. Where there is a high rainfall, this particular method is very suitable. And for the propagating the species which bleed badly during the budding, such as chestnut. So inverted T budding allows better drainage and better graft healing, because it bleed badly means it give out some of the resin, and that resin make when this incision is there, so and when this bud is grafted here, so what happened, it sealed out with the exudation that comes out from the material, right? So it bleed badly during the budding, such as chestnut. In the case of chestnut, we can see this exudation that is coming out, and it can heal out the cut part, and this bud get easily attached to the plant. So I method. Next type is the I method. In this method, two transverse cut are given and both are joined together at their centers by a vertical cut, giving the T cut shape on the rootstock, and then a bud patch is inserted in this cut flap. So like this, we can flap it, this can be moved this side, this can be moved this side. A flap is like there. You can easily detach this like this. Like this we can. And here we can keep a bud part, and then we can cover it. Again, we can cover it with this flap-like structure. So this is the I budding. The patch is tied as usual. T budding is successful in plant species having thicker bark than that of the bud stick. So the T budding is very successful, the one which is having a thick bark. Okay, the bark of the plant must be thicker. So this T budding is very beneficial, or you can say the successful in those plants. Patch budding. Next type is the patch budding. So in this budding technique, a patch of equal size containing a bud is obtained and fitted into the stock plant, right? So a patch of equal size contained a bud is obtained and fitted into the stock plant. It is successfully used in the species having the thick bark, such as walnut, pecan nut, cocoa, rubber, etc. Next is the chip budding. Chip budding. This is only the method that can be done at a times when the bark is not slipping. And this method can be used with the fairly small material, that is 1 to 2.5 centimeter in diameter. The bud is in this much small, and that can be used. Okay, that is called as chip budding. It is applicable to the dormant stalk since the bark does not need to be separated from the wood as in the T budding. So this is applicable into the dormant stalk since the bark does not need to be separated like we have done in the T budding or inverted T budding. Apple, pear, grape, etc. are being propagated by this technique. Next is the ring budding. This technique of budding a complete ring of bark from the stalk and a complete ring with a bud from a bud stick, preferably of the same size, are removed and inserted onto the stalk. So a complete ring of the bark from the stalk and a complete ring with a bud. So suppose the bud is like this, so it must having a bark like this, and this in the same way the stalk region, the stalk will be removed the whole bark from here. So basically we are removing the bark from the, in a ring form, from the stalk, and we are having the scion, that is the bud, containing the bud with a ring form of bark like this. So that is why it is called as ring budding. New shoots arising from the heavily pruned plants of bear, peach, cherry, mulberry, etc. are capable of giving such buds for budding which can easily be separated. So for this type, bear, peach, cherry and mulberry, these are the plant that is used this type of budding, that is the ring budding. Next is the flute budding. It is a modification of the ring budding. So the heading back of the shoot is avoided in this method. So the ring of the bark is removed by giving a small narrow cut which encircle the stalk except with a narrow bark connection between the upper and the lower cuts of the stalk. So here whole ring is not removed, right, but a small narrow cut with encircle the stalk except with a narrow bark connection between the upper and the lower cut. So there is a narrow connection between the upper and the lower cut. That is why it is called as flute budding. The bud in the form of flute is inserted in the stalk. It is used in bear, beel and also in the jamun. Now, what are the precautions to be taken while budding process? The precaution, budding should be done only with the stalk dividing. So the one thing is very important, the stalk should be actively dividing. Stalk should be actively dividing. Means it must be in a growing phase, right? So that should be grown in the spring, early monsoon in case of India, right? Plant is in active growth and the cambial cells are active. This is very, very important that their cambium cell must be active so that there is a good connection between the bud and the stalk part. Always use fresh bud stick. If the bud stick cannot be used immediately, store them in the cool and humid place. So this is very, very important that our bud that we are considering to graft on the stalk part, that should be very fresh. It should not be like 1 or 2 day old, right? And if it is, you have taken out or you are taking this bud from a far region, right? So used it immediately or store them in a cool or humid place so that the bud should not be dried up. So in case of flute and ring method of budding, select the stalk and bud stick of the same size. So this is also very important in these two methods, that is the flute and ring method. The stalk and the bud stick should be of the same size, because you have exposed, in the case of ring, whole bark of the stalk is exposed and your bud must contain that whole bark of the same size. So this is very important that you are taking that much care that the bark size that you are taking in the ring method, right, taking out from the stalk part, and again the bud is having such a coverage of the bark in that there, so that it cover all over this exposed part in the ring form on the stalk part of the this graft. Use rubber or polythene budding strips to wrap the bud union and sometimes wax to hold the buds securely. So for holding that bud that is got attached to the stalk part, we can use rubber, we can use polythene strips, and we can also use wax material so that bud should not get detached from the stalk part. Propagation by specialized vegetative structure. So we have completed the budding part, that is how the grafting, that is also called as a type of a grafting, right? So specialized structures are usually modified stems such as runners, suckers, offset, rhizome crown, etc., which are used for the propagation of plants. So these are some of the underground modified stem, that is the runner. So runner is above, sucker, offset, rhizome and inside, that is present inside the ground, underground. A runner is a specialized stem which develops from the axil of leaf at the crown of a plant. It grows horizontally along the ground and strikes the roots at the node and produce new plant, example strawberry. So this is the plant, this is the, and this is the branch. So where it touches the ground like this, right? So a lot of moisture is present there. So it gave rise roots there. So what we can do? We can cut this and we can detach this plant and place it to a new place. Again, we can cut this part and again we can have one new plant. So this is the runner. In the case of strawberry, this is one of the example, right? So we can have this a type of a stem, that is runner, that can be used for the propagation of plant. Next is sucker. Sucker is a shoot which arises from the roots. Sometimes sucker arises from the stem also, as in the pineapple and banana. In banana, two types of suckers are produced, that is water sucker and sword sucker, right? So we are having, in the case of banana, two types of sucker, water sucker and sword sucker. Water sucker are broad-leaved while sword suckers are pointed in the shape of sword. And the sword suckers are preferred for the propagation over the water sucker. So according to the leaves, we can find out that what type of sucker is present in the case of banana. Water sucker is having the broad leaf structure, and the sword suckers that are their leaves are in the case of shape of sword. So we generally favor this sword sucker preferred for the propagation over the water sucker. Suckers are often able to put out their own roots and become a new plant that are clones. Actually, they are the clone because they have been a part of the parent plant and now they are detached, right? And they are having the roots, so they get easily established at a new place. So genetically identical to the parent plant. They are genetically identical to the parent plant, and that is why it is called as clones. So the critical example of sucker is the chrysanthemum. This is a flower plant, chrysanthemum. So this is used as a sucker along with the banana and pineapple. Offset, very important. An offset is a lateral branch produced from the base of the stem of a monocotyledonous plant. The branch may develop roots on the plant itself. So here we can see this is a plant, monocot, fibrous root. Now another plant. So this particular is called as offset. Offset. They can be induced to develop roots after separation, that is in the case of date palm and pineapple. Rhizome. Next type is the rhizome, right? So a rhizome is a specialized stem structure in which the axis of the plant grows horizontally. So here it grows horizontally like this. In the case of ginger, suppose this is a ginger, it is having the scaly leaves and they are having nodes. So this is the nodal region. They are having buds, right? So they move in this direction. The structure which axis of the plant growth is horizontal, just below the ground level or the surface of the ground. So when this is cut, that can be used as a propagating the new plant. Propagation is done by cutting the rhizome into parts, with each part having at least one node. This is very, very important, that if the rhizome is like this, then they are having the number of nodes. So if we are cutting this part, right, this part we are cutting, then this must have a node. So this is having two node. This part is having two node here, we can see, right? Or I in the case of potato, we can see, suppose this is a tuber. So these are the I. Actually, this is a node. This is the node. These I in the case of potato are nothing but they are the node. And in this nodal region, a bud-like structure comes out. So when we cut the potato in 3 pieces and put it in the ground containing at least an I, right? So that is containing at least a node actually, and that gave rise to a new bud. So ginger, canna, lily of the valley, banana, etc. that can grow from the rhizome. So this is all about this session. We have completed plant propagation in the horticultural plant. Okay, so this topic has been completed. Thank you very much.